All right. A little bit of an update on this model I'm working on. This is you can sort of see it. I guess you can sort of see it. Yeah. Well, I mean, um, okay. Yeah. So I'm working on kind of the whole thing, really. Since I've last been online, there's a lot of things I've updated with this figure. Worked on the cloth draped around his legs and around his torso. More realistic. I shot reference photo so I can see what it looks like, which is very helpful. It just seems natural. It seems natural for stuff like that. And it's just when you do it, you can fake it and it looks good. But when you do reference, to me, it always pays off. It has a sense of realism about it. And I've been working on the armor, which, by the way, takes longer than you would think. Yeah, armor takes a long time. Doing these, figuring out these shapes for the legs and whatnot, is it's a little bit of a process. What works, what matches the artwork supplied, right? Um, uh, I worked on the arms and the hands and getting those into position. You can sort of see now the shapes coming through with his glove. So I've got the basic shape down, which is extremely important. I'm not going to do any detail yet until I know that basic shape is working. And it is working. When I go back to it, I'm going to start making it smoother, and then I'm going to add these spikes on here, which are really sweet. That's a cool thing. I'm sure he gouges people with them. And yeah, and then I'm gonna start adding the fine detail, like this kind of stuff. So, but I don't even like to go into that until I get to a certain point. The fire, I'm working on the fire right now. I started with these basic shapes. You can see them wrapping around the sword. I've kind of come to the conclusion that my plan is going to work pretty good, which is to start out with these thin shapes down at the bottom near the tip, and then as they become farther up the sword, they become bigger, right? So the shapes become larger, and I know it's hard to see because it's so dense and all that, but you can sort of get the idea. It's going to be bigger and stronger up top. Maybe they'll have them, they will wrap around him. They'll wrap around his arm and his hands and whatnot. So I'm working on that, which is a lot of fun. So it takes a long time. Doing the armor just takes time. It's not just doing it only, it's wrapping my head around what it should be, right? Because it's kind of a fantasy armor. It isn't just, it's not just realistic armor, right? It's both. So how that functions correctly and getting them so that shapes don't collide with each other, that's always challenging. So in Mudbox, I'm working on the fire here, and you can sort of see there's the shape just by itself. Kind of figuring out like what I think what works, right? What works to make it look like fire. Like it doesn't need to be more angular to look like fire, which I think it does. But you kind of don't know that until you start doing it and figuring out what is working, what isn't working. I like the idea that because it's a graphic thing, that some of these shapes along the fire are going to be flat shapes. Like Mailbox has a cool button down. You can't see it because my name's in the way. Okay. It has a cool tool. I'll put it right there called flatten. You see it right there. And so you can actually take shapes too much, flatten them out like that, right? So you don't always get a chance to use flatten. It's just, it doesn't always seem to apply, but here I think it does. So another brush that's really cool is called pinch. And so you can take a surface like right here that's kind of soft, right? It's kind of soft, and you can do this to it, where you squeeze the vertices so they're really tight. So that's always helpful, and so they come in handy when you need them. The brushes. It's not. I usually use the sculpt and the bulge brush, and the grab brush. I use that quite a bit to do most of the work, but it's also like what you're used to. So I'm sure there are people who are just they use wax a lot, right, to do a lot of their work because they're just used to doing it, you know. And it's not a science, right? It's an art form. So, right. What's up, Fanta? Fanta's over on YouTube. It looks like watching me. Um, Yeah, so the challenge is to make it look like fire, right? Which like I said, makes it more angular, is more, I think, fire-ish, right? Um, and getting there is challenging sometimes with stuff like this. You don't really know, which the road is not always clear how to do that unless you've done it before. I haven't really done fire before, so this is going to be fun for me. Trying to figure out the solutions. Because fire is like, it's also thick and thin, right? Um, and you don't know it until you do it. Often I'll do stuff and I'll just totally fuck it up, right? Completely like mess up what I had. That's a typical 3D thing with this kind of stuff. It's the same with 2D. You can draw stuff and go, I didn't like it the way I had it before, but now this is definitely not working. So yeah, so at least that's not the direction, right? A lot of the challenges I had actually with him was positioning his arms in a way where all those shapes don't collide, because in real world they don't collide, right? They kind of bump up against each other, but they don't go through each other. So getting that in it, because it's in a really extreme position, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, I got it to work. But it was definitely tricky. So more angular. I'm going around this and trying to do it more angular, so it looks more like fire. Fire, or I think it's fire. It could be like a fire-ish mystical thing, I think. So it can be more nondescript, but you don't want people to get it and go, I don't even get what that is. So you might as well go with something like fire, right? Yeah, follow me on Twitter. Thanks, Fanta. Um, yeah, 3D sculpting is a lot of fun. It's one of those things in life where I just sit there and I go, I don't know how did I get into this? Like, I can probably figure out like the steps that happened, but I mean, I just knew how to do it right away. I knew how to think in 3D like from the very beginning. It kind of looks like, you know what this? It kind of looks like Chinese fire right now, where you would see the like a Chinese sculpture, right? That's what it feels like right now. You would see this around like some Chinese deity, which is kind of neat, actually. I think what it means is that my fire is not realistic yet, and it means that it's kind of stylized, right? And that stylization is a little soft. It's not super angular like yet, so it's looking like the Chinese thing, which is cool too. I mean, I'm not against it, but you know, it's good to analyze this stuff to figure out what you're doing. Quite honestly, um, I don't. I think I'm going to end up maybe adding some separate ones, small ones down here, like a little ball of fire that goes nowhere, right? And then these ones, there's a big one here that wraps around the whole thing, or a couple big ones. I think that's probably. I think that's probably because it works. I think it really works. The fire, and it adds to the piece, right? You want people to get this and go, that is cool. You know, if you didn't do that, then it's like, okay, why bother doing it in the first place, right? Um, and every figure is totally different, right? I can use the same techniques on on every on every 3D thing I do, but you know, the look, the style of every figure is different. And my goal is to not do what Matt wants. My goal is to do what works, what makes that client's character that they've worked so hard on will look awesome, right? So if I've never done a thing a certain way and they kind of that's their thing, then I have to try to adapt to it to figure out how I can do it. Um, I pretty successful so far. There's not too many things that are impossible, but yeah, like years ago I did a Thanos, a miniature, like a 1 inch miniature of Thanos actually, and he was I was like, whoa, this armor he's got, because I put him in the armor from the movie, and I thought this is crazy, man. There's so much work involved in doing the armor because, like I said, you have to wrap your head around because even in like a movie thing, you know, they make it so intricate that it is not simple. I mean, just tell you, and you can get gray hair just trying to figure out how to reverse engineer something like that, right? I'm telling you. I mean, everything is cool when it's all done and complete, you know. But while you're doing it, it looks like a shit show, and you're like, I don't know if this is working, you know. Like, and I did the the Daryl Dixon model. I mean, quite honestly, 3/4 of the way through, I was like, I don't even know if this is the right pose. Did I screw up and do the wrong pose? You know, I mean, and what it was is once the details start to come into play, then it really starts to work. And that's where you get pose, shapes, and then detail all come together into one thing. And that's where it really works good. So there has to be there, right? You have to be able to point to a spot and say, that thing is really cool. And that's why it is, because look at it. So yeah, you don't get that until you get the details. So I can usually visualize those details like from the very first pose. Most artists can look at a gesture drawing and go, that's it. That's how Batman's going to pose. And I get it right away. I can see every part of it, you know? But if you're not used to, if you don't have that skill, then you might look at it and go, I don't know, you know? I don't know. But yeah, see, the fire's kind of weird. Soften it up. Soften it up a little bit. And I don't want this stuff to be too thin because it's going to be printed in a resin. So I believe it's going to be printed resin. So I want to. One of the challenges is to make things, you know, thicker than they normally would be. Right? It's just kind of the territory with resin printing. So would fire be as thick as I'm going to make it on this? Maybe not so much, but it's going to make it so that things don't break when you buy them, right? Or it's going to minimize the amount of breakage that could happen. So, I mean, that's kind of fucking cool looking. That fire is pretty cool. It does look like Chinese fire to me. The more I do it, right? Maybe I can flatten some of the shapes out so that it looks more angular, but yeah, it's starting to work. Maybe I should do the other one now. Do this one. It's it's the basic shape as it is, but maybe it's time to bring that in. So let's see. I'll call this Fire 2. Naming things is a big deal. It doesn't have a real difference, but so if you go looking for it, you can find it. Because what I'm going to do is make there's an original version of that fire somewhere. If I had to go back a couple steps to do something, I'd know where to find it. All right, so I'm going to add a modifier onto this. Wait a second. Hold on. Maybe this has got more I can add to it. Because I like the way it's wrapping around the sword. But I wonder if, all right, just so you know, when you use lines, you get one end that has this edge. You have to always delete it. So yeah, so I wonder if there's more I can do with this now that I kind of know the shape. And I'm gonna, okay, lower it. I kind of want it to touch the hands and the sword because 3D wise, it'll be more stable as a 3D figure, which I want. I want to make sure my clients get that. So they want it too, believe me. Right? Something like that. Make it just wrap around it. Integration, like things like this, like cloth that wraps on a character or flames that rip around a character, that goes a long way, right? Just like cool details do as well. Right. So now I think, so yeah, I want to get it around his arms more because I like it. Right. I'm just begging. This is a curse of art, the artistic curse people have, right? We just want more, make it more cool. And it just adds to the complexity of the piece, right? Tell you what, something like this. That's kind of cool. I like that it's framing the hands, right? It's pointing at the hands, and it's kind of like something you can look through to see his cool gloves. That's a cool quality to me, right? Looking through things to see another thing. I like that. And so it's come about in other sculpts I've done where I've come up with that kind of a thing, and it's always paid off in my mind. So um, So I want to make it so that what I don't want is these branches all look the same length, right? Because fire is not like that. Fire looks, if you're going to 3D model it, it should look unpredictable. So I wonder where this one could go. I wonder if I could have these accentuate the length of the sword. So on the back end, what if they shot out kind of like this, right? They culminate in the like a trail. That would be kind of cool. I like that. Yeah. And that will finish off the shape and that like a natural ending so that people looking at it are going to go, that's kind of cool. You want like a, that's kind of cool all over the place. That's kind of a good approach in my mind. And yes, definitely, I want them because it's just fire. I want them to collide with each other. Right. See, that's way better. Having that wrap around like that is just way better. That's how artists talk. It's really like a how do you say it? It's a thing you just know when you see it, right? And you don't have words for it, but you're like, that works. And I do more of that. This kind of a thing. Artists kind of are all very instinctual in that way, right? So we don't sit there and plan it out so much. We do, but stuff like this, you kind of just go from your gut because you have to, because it's 1,000 different decisions, right? It's all the details about the larger stuff and then smaller stuff. So like this right here. Now I'm going to rotate this. So, not that people really need to know this, but I might as well talk about it. I'm using right now, you see that when I'm moving things, this gizmo is always pointed at me. So if I rotate, it's always pointed at the screen, right? Um, but you can change it in these 3D programs to where it's always in a universal position. So if I rotate, it's like that, so like you're moving it to the left or right, up or down, and it's very helpful to have them. So I like with something like this, I like to have it always oriented at the screen so I know what it is. Okay. So one of them should be longer. Like that. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe like that. Yeah. This one comes through, and this one is what crosses over. And if that one crosses over, let me grab these, move them like this, move it like that. It can get, when you want to like only select certain parts, it can get crazy. So you end up having these tools to help you do that, selecting the way you want. It gets crazy, man. Let me just tell you. And I'm working myself into a corner here with all these intertwining things. But got to be done. Okay, so grab just those two, right? There's one underneath there. Lift it up. A lot of thick and thin for fire too, right? So, and let's add a loop right there so I can move it. Yeah, like that. So it still touches the hand. Let's add a loop here. Let's add a couple. Once you add these like subdivisions, these loops, it's hard to get rid of them if you don't want them. And there's times when you don't want them. So I add them reluctantly until the point where I know it's gonna be working. Right, like that. A little thick and thin. Too much. It's easy to get pinned down right now. I'm gonna be doing it like in the mud box and making it all smooth and whatnot. So it's kind of kooky for me to try to get exact with it right now. Kind of pointless, to be honest. This guy starts right there on the bottom. I wonder. First of all, let's save it because that's a lot of work. We don't want to lose it. I'm going to subdivide it or put there. I'm going to add. I really like these bottom ones that cross over, these thin bones at the bottom of the blade. So I want that. So let's add that. Oh. There we go. Grab this one. There we go. You know, this is kind of like when I did like the belt on this guy. I mean, you can sort of see what it looks like right there. The shapes are complicated, and doing those, it looks simple when it's done, but doing it is complicated. And this fire is kind of the same way. It's a complicated shape to sort of make. And let's do it. Have it start over here. Here we go. Yeah, something like that. Maybe you could start off the tip like that. Maybe this part over here could have a thing. Yeah, that's what it's got to do. Maybe it's got it branches off right here. Let's just grab these. What if I rotate this stuff like that? Make it more natural. Don't know. Kind of winging it, kind of making it up. And not, 3D modeling, not everything is a makeup deal, right? Some things are like you trying to get that to look like exactly what it should look like. And this is more design, right? Trying to design flame. I mean, there's worse ways to spend your time. Let me tell you. Um, yeah, something like that, where there's like a flare halfway through. Maybe that would be cool. Maybe this stuff can happen closer towards the tip. Yeah. Maybe this guy can happen right here. I think, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Um, okay, here we go. So I'm so used to using these tools. There is a thing with anything that you do, you want to put your 10,000 hours in, and it has to become just like drawing or something. It's got to become second nature. You have to do it, and the process is a thing that you don't think about anymore, right? It's just a matter of instinctual stuff going on, and that's kind of where I am with this kind of thing. You can see me move these tools around, but there was a day when I would go, okay, let's go over here and click on the thing. Where is that thing? Oh, I see it's right, and then that's gone. That's gone. If somebody asked me, okay, what are the steps? How do you do it? I would literally, I'm not even sure if I could actually walk somebody through it. I probably could to a degree, but um, it's so instinctual now that you end up just doing it. It's all from your brain remembers it subconsciously. So, which is the way it should be. You don't really want to. I'm not a technical person at all, which is kooky to hear, but it's true. I don't like that. There we go. Um, I'm really an artistic person, but you have to learn to You have to learn your tool, right? You have to learn how to use the pencil. It's a tool, complicated tool, and it also ups the game when other people are really good at using the tool. And so you're kind of like this. They've changed the standard now. So all of a sudden, if you draw like Picasso or you draw like Rembrandt or something like that, now they're the standard, and now you have to copy and improve just to be in the game. So I've seen a lot of really cool 3D modeling. I've always been blown away by it. There was a time when I thought, what the fuck is going on here? Oh, is that what that is? Okay, I don't want that. Let's. I don't want these to collide like that. It's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get crazy for on the 3D side. In Mudbox 2, it's gonna not understand what that is. So I'm gonna keep them close. But anyway, so yes, so many cool 3D stuff, and I never thought I would be doing it ever, right? But when you do something and it automatically works, and you're like, what the fuck just happened? You kind of know that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? You can try to not accept it all you want, but it's just the way it is. Right. That looks pretty good. I like that. And it's going to get thinner when I pull it in the mud box and start modeling, sculpting it. So I like to have these basic thicker shapes that I can work with. That's kind of my workflow. Um, so I'll show you what I'm going to do. So you can sort of see in the upper right, there's a little panel right over here, and this is how a lot of 3D programs work. This is modular, for lack of a better way of saying it. So I can turn this off and go back to the original shape I had. And all of those changes are on this one modifier. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another one because I have the basic shape that I like. And the reason I'm going to do it this way is if I want to go back and change it, I'll have the option to do it. Do it that way. So I'm going to subdivide this for this sculpting. Stop. So you'll see these lines. There we go. You'll see the lines all of a sudden when I subdivide it. Boom. Right? Boom. And that's so that you can do it. You can use it in Mudbox, and you have something to move around besides these giant chunks. All right, so let's save this. And let's send it to Mudbox. There we go. And let's hide the old one. Okay, here we go. All right. And I'm going to lock the first fire so I don't mess with it. There we go. I like the angular. I think I got to do more of that. Because I think it definitely sells visually as fire. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's a good thing. I think that works. Oh, I got it on both sides, huh? Okay. Okay, that's going to be too thin. Soften the whole thing up a little bit. Right? And too thin right there. You kind of get the idea. Okay. Subdivide it. Now let's see. There we go. Let's select this, this, and this, and hide everything. Oh, son of a bitch. Yeah. I don't need this. I don't even know why all those fingers are in there anymore. What a pain. Okay. But right now, let's just do this so I can just see the sword. All that other stuff is in the way. What the fuck? Oh, that's why. More angular, right? So you see, the more you stretch these geometries around, you get weird stuff like this. And eventually, what I'm going to end up doing is retopologizing the geometry so that it doesn't do that. But not yet. Not yet, because it's going to happen farther up the thing. So I might as well do it all at once. A little fire action going on there, right? Stuff like this. Whoosh. This one should go the opposite direction because it looks better. Right? There we go. Yeah, see how stretched out that is? So I can subdivide it, but it gets kooky fast. Real kooky. Every 3D program has different sets of tools. You can do this in Mudbox. You can do this in Maya to some degree. ZBrush is the big one. That's the biggest 3D sculpting program. And so they all have different tools. ZBrush is probably the best. The reason I don't have it is it won't run on Windows 7. And I have Windows 7 on purpose. Right. So let's unhide everything. So I can't run it on here. And I've even thought about, I have another PC that it will run on that has Windows 10. I've thought about putting it on there. But it's crazy. It's a little bit weird. The whole thing is a weird setup. And I just don't, once I go down that road, then I have multiple software packages on different PCs, and it just gets crazy, right? But it's a bummer because I really would like to get ZBrush. I think it's just, I had it years ago, and for some reason they won't honor the one I bought 10 years ago, which they should. But yeah, they're not gonna. So anyway, I have to buy it again. It's about, I think it's around $600. So it's a little expensive for me. Yeah. Angular. But the cool thing about ZBrush compared to what I'm using 3ds Max, which is kind of the mainstay 3D modeling program, animation program. But Mudbox doesn't have generating geometries in here, and you have to use the other program and go back and forth. In ZBrush, you can generate and create geometries, and it also has tools to make hair. right? If I wanted to make hair instead of the hand doing it, which is how I do it now, um, they have that, which is really, I'm eyeing that huge because that's a lot of fun. But it has other things where where you can do just a shitload of stuff. Tools for not for animators and motion graphics people, but tools for modelers, right? So if I wanted to get a certain edge along this fire, let's say the fire had grooves throughout the whole thing, and that's one of the textures I put on it. I could generate those grooves. It would have a way to do that instead of hand doing it. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, I would like to get ZBrush, but Mudbox is really good, and it's all about what you do with the software. Some of the things are knickknacks like that, but honestly, it comes down to I think it comes down to the artist and the eye. Your decision making ability. That's where it's at. It's not getting the newest tool. But yeah, I would like to do that. A lot of software I own is on this computer, and I won't be able to transfer it to a new computer. And you're like, well, why is that? It's because Autodesk, who makes 3ds Max and Mudbox, they're total jerks, and they want people to be on rent forever programs, right? See, now they can touch up here. Right, that'd be cool. So they're stable. And I don't want to do the rent forever thing. I think that totally sucks. I'm totally against it. All right, you got this one right here, huh? Right there. Tuck it in like that. See, I don't want. See, it's crazy because I won't really know how close I can get with this right now until I finish the gauntlets, his gloves. If you know what I mean. So, oh yeah, you can hardly see it with that. All right. See if I can make it more angular. How do I make it more angular? More twisted. Right? More like tongues of fire. Like that. More things like that. Sharp angles. Even if, yeah. Very Chinese. Yeah, see right there. You're stretching it too much. Too much. Some programs have a thing where you can retopologize like live. I think it's called Dynamesh in ZBrush, where basically this thing that's happening to me right now, this kind of bizarre crinkling. Hey, Kay. You don't have that in some of these other. They came up with a way to get around that. I think it's called Dynamesh, where as you stretch it, every time you do what I just did right there, it comes up with a new, it redoes the whole mesh, right? So it adds so it doesn't have that problem. But there's a workaround. So yeah, see right there, it's crazy shit. Crazy shit. So I'm gonna subdivide it. See if it helps. It helps a little bit. I think yeah, I mean it's kind of working. Um, telling you, you can spend like hours just working on this kind of stuff. I think you can see that just by watching me. You know, like somebody drawing like armor on a character with a pen and ink or something, right? You could just lose yourself for a couple hours and you look up and you've been sitting in one position the whole time and your legs are like got aches and Charlie horses or whatever in them. And um, you can sort of see it, I'm sure. I like that. I like that. How it comes over this side and that side. All right. So I want to make it more angular all over because that's going to sell it as fire, not smoke. And I want to get those angles correct. Right, so those are pretty smooth. I'm going to want them to be like this. It's way too fragile though, that'll break. So I can't do it that much. Fire is like a tricky thing to draw and to paint. It usually is tricky because you want it to read correctly, right? Like that. Right. It is tempting to make things soft so that they're strong and they're not going to break in 3 when you print them in 3D. It's kind of the safe way to do it. But you know, it's going to work. It's going to work like fire. Ending in points is a good thing. See, yeah, that's not good. All right. I want to get rid of all the lumpy ends. Spiky. That's how I think. Picking that up. Keep it close so it touches his hand. Fuck. I'm doing hotkeys right now. That's why I'm frustrated. Yeah, I do hotkeys on my left hand, and then on my right hand I do my stylus. And you do it like you don't even think. It's just a reaction, instinctual thing, right? See, that's too thin. I'm sure at some point AI is gonna do all this shit, which is a bummer. I'm not saying it's gonna happen tomorrow, but someday AI is gonna take our jobs one way or the other. Right, so this one can go like this. So yeah, see how twisted that up is? Even with all the subdivisions, it's got to be smoothed out. Okay. Okay. That's in a good ballpark. Um, Maybe this area I should have it touching. Yeah, probably. I like that it goes through the sword. That's kind of actually cool because it is fire. It's not something solid. I like that. Dang, I like that idea. All right. It'll make it even easier to make it stable. Right? This one's kind of, that's what it is. I'm just going over the whole thing piece by piece, right? And you just catch things and evolve it. The whole piece is like that, where you do uh I work on everything to try to keep everything going at the same level. So I'll work on this for a while, work on that for a while, and slowly build the whole thing up. That way I can watch it, see if it's working, see if it's not working, right? Um, and you can judge it. That's the way I like to do it. All right. I'm going to save this and I'm going to retopologize it. So just that shape, I'm going to tell it to rebuild and make a new one where it isn't all stretched out. And it's a big pain. Last time I tried it on see, it's giving me a thing right there. Okay. It's telling me there's these intercolliding shapes. And of course, it's where I stretched it. I'm going to smooth it out. See if that helps. Right. It is what it is. Okay. Let's do that. Now let's do it again. See if it does it. Yeah, see, it's going through it now. Yeah, so I'm gonna once I get this part done, I'm going to make it even more angular, and then I'm going to start flattening out some of those shapes so that they look more fire-esque. But this is sort of the process. Get it? Let's see. Who's watching on all this is doing this? Who's watching on Twitter? There it is. 42 views. Wow. That's pretty sweet. Wow. Okay. Well, that has been the hour. There we go. We got it. I'll show you before we back out. So it made a new version of this that is mega dense. And I don't need that kind of density. So I'm going to delete some of the levels that they created for me, which is kind of cool that it does this. It made a file. You see over to the right all the different layers. So one of them at the lowest level, it's around 3,000 poly count and 2,000 faces on it, and then the highest it's 3 million. Right. So I don't need that. So I'm gonna delete 2 of them. And then keep those ones. There you go. That's better. Anyway, so now everything's laid out smoother. And then that way, when I go back and try to flatten and do stuff to it now, it's better. And that's kind of what you want. So anyway, thanks for stopping in and watching me go through the 3D process. I'm glad you guys like it. I'll probably be doing more as I get closer and closer to finishing. I'm probably 60% done with this character, but the finishing process is going to really make a huge difference. So if you like it now, you're going to really like it later. And this is kind of how it always works. So anyway, thanks guys. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good one.